Each year, most Americans go to the great outdoors to enjoy hiking, kayaking, and mountaineering. Communing with nature is one of those things that leave you feeling fresh and renewed. Unfortunately for some, these trips, which are supposed to be great bucket list adventures, have ended in calamity. As per the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System, about 600,000 people go missing in the US each year, and about 8 to 11% of them disappear without a trace. Most of these cases are easier to explain and are due to conditions such as hypothermia, falls from high places, attacks by wild animals, and avalanches. Several cases to date remain mysteries and remain unsolved and unresolved. They happen more often than we'd imagine. How about you join us as we delve into some of them? Starting with Rocky Mountain National Park workers, an incident here baffled even the park rangers. The Grand Canyon is widely considered to be one of the greatest natural wonders. It has outstanding picturesque waterfalls and geysers that end up in rushing waters and still lakes, and additionally diverse wildlife and an environment that can only be described as heaven on earth. The dark side, however, lingers, whereby the Grand Canyon is a place that has claimed many lives, and those who are familiar with its deadly and deathly terrains are also not spared. Let's look at a few people whose cases are perturbing. Morgan Heimer. This young man was energetic and the proverbial adventure junkie at 22 years old, full of life and promise. He was a guide who disappeared on the 6th day of an 8-day hike of the Grand Canyon. He'd been working for Tour West, a Colorado river rafting firm, and some of his abilities were pro swimming and trekking. He was born in Cody, Wyoming, and as an adolescent explored and fell in love with nature. Even though he went to school and got a degree in English, he decided to pursue his passion as a river guide. He had a track record as an impeccable outdoorsman and swimmer. That fateful day on June 2, 2015 was his 8-day trip along the Colorado River. Up to the 6th day, the trip was successful and his group was in high spirits. When they approached Pumpkin Spring at the mile marker, they were wowed by the beautiful rock formation which was sticking out of the canyon. The rock looked like a pumpkin with rounded walls and vertical streaks mapped out of it. Around 4 p.m., the group had successfully come from Pumpkin Spring and was taking their boat back when Heimer, while standing near a cliff, addressed the main rafting guide. He was putting in a request to take the afternoon off. After this operation, the guide had to attend to a client who was part of the excursion party. When he was done, he came to look for Heimer and could not find him. He presumed that Heimer had taken the afternoon off, not knowing this was the last time he would see him. Heimer was last seen wearing a blue plain long-sleeve shirt, a dark Astral personal flotation device, a baseball cap, flip-flop sandals, and some colored shorts and a purple water bottle. The group swam for the better part of the evening, had dinner, and did a few other fun activities. It was only at 7:26 p.m. that a concerned member reported that he was missing. Heimer was considered a pro in the terrain, and he was always keen on safety, never leaving his safety jacket behind. A 6-day search was launched by both the rangers and rescue teams. They looked through the river and surrounding areas between markers 211 and 215. Later, the search was expanded to Diamond Creek, which was about 12 miles westward. Every Tour West employee, as well as other river guides of other nearby companies, were interviewed. No new information came forth. After the 6th day, the search was called off, and it was assumed that Heimer had drowned, albeit his body was never found. Investigators assume that he never made it out, but at this point we can never know for sure. What would be your speculations? Did he get lost in the canyon he knew so well, or did he walk out to end his life? Let us know in the comments section. Ruthann Rupert. In August 2000, Ruthann, aged 49, left the lovely home in Florida for a much-needed vacation at the raved Yosemite National Park. Ruthann's trip was supposed to be a normal trip full of fun and pleasant memories. She was quite a climber and had gone far and wide to achieve new heights. One of her favorite stories was how she ascended Mount Kilimanjaro, which is the highest in Africa. She'd also climbed the Frozen Foot, and when others got nervous about Y2K, Rupert was already at the Argentine Park in Colorado as a way to usher in the new year. Yosemite was just a regular climb compared to her other achievements. She was supposed to join a trekking group traveling 30 kilometers across the park. At some point, she got treated for an eye infection at the Yosemite Medical Clinic in the Curry Village area at noon on August 14th. Her climbing party had to leave her behind as she sought medical help for her infected eye. She was not so happy that she could not continue with the climb given the infection and the fact that she'd been left behind. She got a cozy little cabin in Curry Village and decided to go shopping. Her walk turned out to be a one-day hike from Yosemite Falls to the forested area. She left sometime in the afternoon after shopping and was never seen again. She was 5'5" tall and weighed 140 pounds. Rupert had a prosthetic eye, and given that her other good eye had been infected, it placed her in a vulnerable position, a factor that was cited by the investigating team. She had left behind some of her supplies, which is not common for an experienced hiker. Her family suggested that she'd not gone out intending to stay too long in the forest. She was not likely to have harmed herself as much as losing out on the trip with a climbing party had disoriented her vacation plans. After an extensive search party, she was never found. Her backpack was discovered 8 years later in a Fireplace Creek down in the drainage. Curry Village is 8 kilometers away from Fireplace Creek. It's hard to explain how her backpack got there. Her whereabouts to date remain a mystery that needs solving. Paul Braxton Fugate. This experienced park ranger has been missing for over 40 years. Park rangers usually are the go-to people when someone is lost or hurt. They know what to do, where to look, and how to manage such situations. Paul Braxton had worked as a park ranger in Chiricahua National Park on Arizona National Park. It was disturbing that he disappeared. On January 13, 1980, he left the tourist center for a much-needed trek at 2 p.m. and was never ever seen again. Being the park's only permanent employee, it was his responsibility to close up the park. When he didn't fulfill this duty, his absence was quickly noted. On a normal day, Paul would be the one with the most expertise when it came to a search and rescue party. The Cochise County Sheriff's Department and National Park Service were forced to search. Chiricahua was about 17 square miles of canyons coupled with dangerous terrains and wildlands. All these make things harder for the search parties. The search and rescue team uncovered nothing, and the later prize was set at $60,000 for anyone who could offer information leading to Paul's location. Even with this attempt, there was no light at the end of the tunnel. Fugate stayed as a missing person for 42 years, and it stated so in the MPS records. Years later, new information reveals that Paul walked off the job and was later fired. His wife Dottie, however, was unable to claim any of his benefits due to this new information. She was also asked to return the $6,000+ that had been paid during his absence. In 1986, this matter was examined again, and Dottie continued to receive benefits. The national park was certain that Paul was not alive, but the search continues. You can only imagine how many more people and children run the risk of getting lost. Stacey Ann Arras. In 1981, Stacey was only 14 years old. She went on a Yosemite Park guided tour with some of her family and some friends. Her father and 6 other people rode mules for the journey. The place had numerous camping grounds which were a mile or 2 from one another. Stacey's group was at Sunrise High Sierra Camp, which was the furthest. She wanted to go to the nearest lake to take pictures with her old-school camera. After they had settled in camp, she asked her father to take her, but he preferred to sleep in instead. An older man, Gerald Stewart, offered to accompany her instead. Stewart was 77 years old and decided to take a rest at some point as Stacey continued to the lake. Stewart woke up from his rest and went up to the camping site. He asked the other campers if they'd seen her, but no one had. They figured out that Stacey was no longer on the route, nor at the lake. An extensive search team was assembled. 3 helicopters, a dog search, rescue teams, and about 100 personnel searched the area. Despite the speedy response, the only thing found was her camera lens cap. The possible culprit who had taken her was keen to ensure no blood was shed. It's highly unlikely that a 14-year-old would stroll and disappear without a trace. If she were found, Stacey would be 57 years old. Looks like Yosemite National Park has a few disappearance cases. It's been decades since some of the people mentioned were last seen. Do you think any of these disappearance cases can ever be resolved? Let us know in the comments section.